On February 18, 1994, it was an unforgettable shopping day, brimming with excitement, wonder, discovery, and pure joy. The day had been meticulously planned for months, culminating in a beautiful February outing where I was accompanied by a close friend posing as my boyfriend. We visited 3 shops, 2 of which were formal bridal outlets. Rita, a dear friend since October 1993, had previously acted as my photographer during a photoshoot at a public flower garden, capturing me in various formal dresses. The day had gone so well that I ended up leaving the garden in a short leather miniskirt. Rita, enjoying our time together, ensured I was photographed by a busy road next to her stylish car, reveling in the attention. When I suggested to Rita how much fun it would be to play the roles of boyfriend and girlfriend on a formal date, she enthusiastically agreed, and our plans for February 18th began to take shape. Rita proposed taking me on a formal date, dressed in a sophisticated male guise, promising an evening of dancing and dining at an elegant restaurant, a cherished dream of mine. Rita's generosity and enthusiasm sparked a cascade of ideas. Initially, the date was meant as Rita accompanying me in one of my own dresses. Remembering the attention we received during the photoshoot, Rita suggested I consider a more alluring dress to make the evening even more memorable. That led to the next step. There was a bridal factory outlet in the mall where I picked up my mail from my P.O. box, a shop I passed by daily. One day, I spotted some girls trying on sexy off-the-shoulder velvet dresses, and instantly knew I had to try one on myself. After discussing with Rita, we agreed a shopping trip was necessary so she could see the dresses on me. This set off a chain reaction. Why stop at just one bridal shop? I thought it would be special for Rita to take me to a more intimate bridal shop, an experience most men never witness, the inside of a bridal boutique. By Christmas, Rita wanted to get me a gift and asked for ideas. One suggestion was helping me buy a formal dress at the bridal shops where formals were marked down as low as $30. This led to another addition to our shopping trip, a visit to a nearby town and a leather factory outlet. During our October '93 trip to the flower gardens, time was tight and we missed lunch. This time, we planned to make time for it. As Rita and I discussed our plans for the February 18th date, we started envisioning our formal date. We talked about where we might go, dining, dancing, and how we would present ourselves. We decided it would be more enjoyable to play the roles of boyfriend and girlfriend on a romantic formal date. After all, why dress to the nines and not enjoy the evening as a couple? So, we decided to practice being a couple on a casual date first, setting the stage for the final mood. Thus, Rita would be James for both the casual and formal dates. At the first bridal shop, he would play my boyfriend, acting as if we were attending a formal awards event together in a month. James expressed dissatisfaction with my current formal wardrobe, finding it too conservative and lacking in flair. Faced with Claire's reluctance to buy a new dress, I jokingly suggested, "Fine, you buy me one, and I'll model anything you want." With our roles set, we planned to engage the saleswomen at the first shop. The leather shop and lunch date would also be played out as boyfriend and girlfriend, with James promising to be the perfect gentleman. The second bridal shop visit presented a different scenario, more intricate than the first. About 2 weeks before February 18th, I passed by the initial bridal shop and observed a bride and her bridesmaid trying on dresses under bright spotlights, assisted by a salesgirl. Memories of my own bridal shopping rushed back, sparking an idea: what if I posed as a bride at the intimate second bridal shop? Thus, the seed was planted, and James agreed to accompany me as a friend, helping me find a formal dress at the second shop, witnessing my try-ons and enjoying the attention from the sales staff. We even planned for him to discreetly photograph me changing in and out of bridal gowns, with a pre-arranged script. As the date approached, our excitement grew with each conversation and plan. I meticulously planned what to wear when James arrived, sorting through my wardrobe. I settled on 2 potential outfits, one more conservative and another with a shorter skirt. Ultimately, I left the final decision to the weather, knowing James preferred escorting someone in high heels and a short skirt over boots and a longer skirt. Preparing to play the role of a bride at the second shop involved poring over my old bridal magazines, studying different dress styles. This preparation ensured I could articulate exactly what I was looking for when asked by the sales staff, a tip recommended for most brides. It reminded me of the anticipation I felt shopping for my own wedding dress for the first time. Finally, February 18th arrived with perfect weather for the season, sunny and in the low 50s. When I woke up that morning and saw the temperature, I knew exactly what I would wear, something short and sexy. With my clothing choice made, I waited until the rest of the family left, then retreated to my bedroom to prepare for what promised to be an exhilarating date. Starting with the uncomfortable yet necessary strapless bra, I continued with my favorite purple panties and slipped into nearly black ultra-sheer pantyhose, feeling their silky smoothness against my legs. A blush-colored camisole and a pink silky dressing gown completed the ensemble. Moving on to makeup, I applied my usual favorite shades, purple and pink, accentuating my eyes with dark, seductive eyeliner. A light blush gave my cheeks a fresh, lively look, and I opted for a slightly brighter pink lipstick to enhance my lips' allure. After completing my makeup, I left the bathroom and returned to the bedroom, shedding my dressing gown to begin assembling the rest of my outfit for the day. I started by slipping into a short black suede skirt, which I hiked up slightly higher than my hips, ensuring it sat about 4 inches above my knees, close to a miniskirt but not quite. For the top, I chose a wool knit top that was originally part of a skirt and top set, but looked perfect on its own. The top featured a wide, scooped neckline with shoulder pads and a snug fit that complemented the green and black stripes of the sweater, pairing well with the short black suede skirt. Once dressed, I began accessorizing for the day. First, a single strand of pearls that would accentuate the off-the-shoulder fashions I planned to try on, coordinating beautifully with the chosen sweater. Next, my gold anklet, which complemented the color of my sheer pantyhose, adding a touch of elegance to my feet. Finally, I adorned myself with a gold watch, short dangly earrings, and a spritz of Obsession perfume. Standing before the mirror, I slipped into 3-inch black pumps, admiring the completed look that I knew James would appreciate as well. About 30 seconds after checking my reflection, the phone rang. It was James, just a few blocks away, letting me know he'd be there in a few minutes. I used the time to ensure my purse was packed, including cutouts of my favorite bridal dress styles, and chose a light pink nail color for the day. When James arrived, I greeted him at the door with a friendly kiss, as any couple would, knowing this gesture would set the tone for our date. James arrived with a bouquet of red roses, a perfect gentlemanly touch. After exchanging greetings, James and I retreated to the living room to discuss our plans for the day while I finished applying my nail polish. I quickly learned the challenge of ultra-sheer, silky pantyhose as I stood up from the couch, my heel brushing against my leg caused a run. Hastily, I rushed upstairs to change into another pair of ultra-sheer pantyhose and packed a spare pair of regular liquor beige pantyhose just in case. Once ready, James kindly offered to hold my long winter coat as I slipped into it. The ride to the first bridal shop was short, just a few minutes from my house. This particular shop was labeled as a factory outlet, lacking the romantic ambience of traditional bridal salons. It resembled more of a large mall store with rows of wedding gowns and formal evening dresses on either side. Towards the back were fitting rooms, each with lighted mirrors on pedestals illuminated by spotlights. Entering hand in hand, James and I encountered a young woman trying on wedding dresses with what appeared to be her mother and bridesmaid offering compliments. We browsed through racks of velvet formals, focusing on those with an off-the-shoulder look. Initially left to our own devices, James suggested getting the attention of the lone saleslady, but I assured him she would assist us soon enough. Just as I had a couple of dresses in hand, she approached, asking if I wanted to try them on and inquiring about my preferences. After explaining my preferences, she directed me to a dressing room stall, encouraging me to take my time and come out when ready. The first dress I tried on was a dark green velvet formal, completely off the shoulder with a sweetheart neckline. Unfortunately, it was a size 15/16 and too loose for me. Despite this, as I pulled back the curtain and moved towards the large mirrored area, posing for both James and myself, he admired the dress and made several flattering comments. The saleslady also expressed admiration and hurried off to find the same style in my size, a 13 to 14. Meanwhile, the girls who had been trying on bridal dresses when I arrived had now switched roles, with the bridesmaid trying on gowns beside me in the mirrors, an exciting moment. Returning to the changing room, I slipped into another chosen dress, a dark red velvet, also off the shoulder with a sweetheart neckline. This one fit me perfectly, and as I zipped it up, I felt like I was living a dream. Stepping out, I could immediately tell it was a hit. Standing before the mirror, the saleslady came up behind me to fasten the final part of the zipper and hook. As I admired my reflection, I noticed the approving looks from the other girls waiting in the area with their parties. Both James and the saleslady agreed the dress flattered my figure beautifully. The saleslady even remarked that the dress exuded elegance, particularly noting the knee-length skirt with a slit about 4 inches up from the hem, adding a touch of allure. My pearls complemented the ensemble perfectly, and I discussed with the saleslady how the velvet material tends to hug the body more closely, making larger sizes often more flattering. In my final trip to the dressing room, I tried on a form-fitting dark green velvet dress with spaghetti straps, a long skirt below the knee, and a slit that rose to mid-thigh. Emerging from the changing room, I noticed the other girls had finished their fittings. James and the saleslady were deep in conversation about my dress choice and the occasion it was intended for, James jokingly mentioning he now had to foot the bill. Despite the dress being attractive and sexy, I wasn't entirely convinced it was my style. Deciding to revisit the red velvet formal, I returned to the changing room knowing James would relish the opportunity to discuss the dress again in front of the saleslady. As expected, upon emerging and modeling the dress once more, James enthusiastically commented on how stunning I looked and how impressive I would appear to his friends. The saleslady echoed his sentiments, praising the dress's elegance and its potential to make a lasting impression. With mutual agreement, we finalized that this was indeed the perfect dress. After changing back into my clothes and bringing the chosen dress out for the saleslady, I walked over to James's side and took his hand as we made our way to the front desk of the salon, where James purchased the dress as we had planned. Leaving the bridal shop hand in hand, I felt flattered as I glanced in the mall mirror on our way out, seeing us walking together with James carrying my dress over his shoulder. It was a charming start to the next part of our date as boyfriend and girlfriend. Our route to the next destination took us along a bustling highway in southern Ontario, a major artery that remained busy even during our travel time. We were headed to a leather factory outlet about 15 miles away. As we merged onto the highway, I could tell from James's expression that he enjoyed the attention my leg-bearing outfit was attracting. We both anticipated the fun of watching truckers maneuver for a better view, intrigued by the sight of the babe in the hot car with the short skirt almost up to her panties. I was genuinely excited about being noticed in this way. It wasn't just the truckers who took interest in my legs. James had been forewarned about the silky, sheer pantyhose that accentuated my legs' allure. I enjoyed teasing him, but as I soon found out, teasing often leads to consequences. When I noticed James eyeing my legs, I gestured that it was all right to touch and feel how silky they were. James clearly enjoyed the sensation, his hand resting on my thigh, caressing my silky skin all the way to the leather shop. It was an unexpected revelation that the inner upper thigh could be such an erogenous zone. James wasn't the only one captivated by my legs. As expected, we observed truckers slowing down on the passenger side to steal glances, which thrilled me even more. Before reaching the leather shop, I informed James that I needed to use the restroom and mentioned a nearby donut shop where I could stop. James parked there and waited for me to return. Stepping out of the car again, I was reminded of the challenges of getting in and out of a vehicle in a short, tight skirt. As I walked through the shop towards the restroom in the back, I noticed a couple of younger ladies checking out my attire. With my coat open, they could clearly see how daringly I was dressed, showing off plenty of leg. This restroom visit brought back memories of similar moments, adding to my thrill. After finishing up, I touched up my lipstick in front of the mirror before heading back to James, who graciously opened the car door for me as I slid back into my seat, and we resumed our journey towards the leather shop. Once we arrived at the leather shop, James and I walked in hand and were greeted by a saleslady who asked us what we were searching for. I mentioned that I was looking for a suede or leather skirt in a light purple or mauve color, though she indicated they might not have that shade. She invited us to browse through their selection of skirts. James and I examined the skirts on display and were somewhat disappointed by the prices and the available choices. However, not wanting to miss out on the opportunity, I opted for a red leather skirt and headed towards the fitting rooms. After trying it on, I wasn't quite pleased with how it looked or felt, so I returned to James and the saleslady, signaling with a shake of my head. James expressed some dissatisfaction, and I slipped back into my black suede skirt. Emerging from the fitting room again, I noticed some leather pants and mentioned to James that I wouldn't mind trying a pair. As we continued to browse, the saleslady returned and informed us that another branch of their store in a nearby city might carry the color we were seeking. We thanked her and continued looking. Just as we were about to leave, James remarked in front of the saleslady, "Claire, weren't you interested in those leather pants?" Grateful for the reminder, I searched through the racks and found a size 13 to try on. However, they turned out to be snug around the waist and unflattering, so I quickly changed back into my black suede skirt. Unfortunately, in my haste, I tripped again and caused another run in my ultra-sheer pantyhose. This time, it seemed worse than the last, proving just how quickly such hosiery can deteriorate. After leaving the fitting room, James commented about moving on to the next store and thanked the saleslady for her assistance. Leaving the shop, we made our way to the restaurant we had chosen for lunch, which we were also considering for our formal evening dinner together. Stepping out of the car, I found the weather pleasantly warm, allowing me to walk comfortably from the parking lot to the restaurant without needing a coat. Walking hand in hand with James to the restaurant entrance, I couldn't help but notice how my skirt rode up slightly as I moved. Inside the restaurant, James requested a quiet table away from the crowd, and we were seated in a cozy booth by the window, creating a romantic atmosphere even in daylight. I noted the run in my pantyhose and mentally planned to visit the restroom to change into the spare pair I had brought. Waiting for the waitress to approach, I politely asked where the restroom was located. James, having discussed our preferences beforehand, acted as the perfect gentleman, ordering for me and declaring, "And the lady will have." His gesture touched me deeply, signaling a shift in how we were portraying ourselves as boyfriend and girlfriend. Smiling back at him, I knew our dynamic was evolving in unexpected but delightful ways. I waited for the beer that James had ordered to arrive, and when it was served, I poured it into the glass while gazing at James. It felt like we were subtly shifting roles as he looked back at me. Deciding to embrace the moment, I made the first move to let James know I appreciated his attention. I looked directly at him and brought the glass to my lips. Instead of drinking, I let the tip of my tongue playfully trace the outer rim of the glass, moving it slowly and suggestively. James simply smiled, and I noticed him shift slightly in his seat. Grabbing my purse, I headed for the restroom, relishing the sensation of my skirt riding up as I ascended the steep stairs. Inside the ladies' room, I enjoyed the familiar ambience. Finding a stall, I removed my silky sheer pantyhose and replaced them with a sturdier pair from my purse, made of lycra. I tucked the silky pair into my purse and moved to the makeup mirror to freshen up. As I spritzed perfume on my neck, a mischievous idea struck me regarding the pantyhose I had just removed. I retrieved them from my purse and sprayed them generously with Obsession perfume, tightly clutching them in my right fist. Leaving the restroom, I descended the stairs and approached our booth where James was seated. Without hesitation, I leaned over and kissed him squarely on the lips. I slipped the perfumed pantyhose into his hands, and as our kiss ended, he glanced at them and stuffed them into his jacket pocket. His smile mirrored mine, acknowledging the playful tease. Sitting back down, I slipped my right foot out of my heel and slid it under the table, gently caressing the bottom of James's leg. I watched his reaction discreetly while continuing to eat my salad and sip my beer, as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. James clearly enjoyed the attention, and as he ate, I met his gaze and allowed my stockinged foot to travel higher up his leg, eliciting an even broader smile from him. As lunch drew to a close, James and I agreed it was time to move on to the second bridal shop and continue our adventure. I graciously accepted James's help as he assisted me into the car, appreciating his chivalry throughout the day. Seizing the moment, I decided to reciprocate some of his attentiveness by giving him a firm yet grateful kiss as he held the door open. James's response assured me that things were progressing wonderfully between us. As James and I merged onto the highway once more, I ensured my skirt was riding high on my thigh, drawing attention from truck drivers once again jostling for a better view. James's hands moved to my thigh, gently caressing, and after the intimate lunch we shared, I felt my body respond to his touch. The date James and I had planned to roleplay as boyfriend and girlfriend was unfolding just as we had envisioned. Lost in thought, I gazed out the car window as James drove, relishing his tender advances. Dressing in the suede miniskirt and high heels, with flawless makeup, I realized deep down this was the outcome I had secretly hoped for. I mused that our upcoming formal date in the fall would likely be quite different from our original plans. James and I discussed the morning's activities, and I wondered about his thoughts on the last bridal salon. I assured him it had been an unforgettable experience for him and that I was eagerly anticipating what lay ahead. Despite feeling like an hour had passed, it had only been 15 minutes before we arrived at the bridal salon. Stepping inside with James close behind, I was thrilled and excited as we were warmly greeted by the saleslady, who asked about the purpose of our visit. I explained our plans, firstly, to find a formal gown, and secondly, to explore bridal gowns for a fall wedding, with my friend, James, graciously driving me. Smiling, the saleslady directed us upstairs to the discounted formal section. Teasingly, I urged James, "Come on, James, don't be shy, I could use a hand," and we ascended to a small room with racks full of discounted dresses. I quietly instructed James to look for dresses in my size, 13/14, without worrying about style or color. Together, we pulled out dress after dress, hanging them aside. James seemed to relish the experience, his enjoyment evident from the expression on his face as we sifted through the formal and feminine gowns. Once we had gathered a selection, James gallantly carried them downstairs for me. The fitting area differed slightly from other bridal stores I had visited, with the pedestal and mirror positioned near the main door and softly lit, creating an intimate and feminine atmosphere. Asking James to hang the dresses in an open stall, I began to undress and try on each gown one by one. Well, as expected, most of the dresses that James and I found were size November 12th, and as anticipated, they wouldn't zip up as I tried them on. Despite this, I managed to slip into a few, and with some effort, the saleswoman helped me zip them up, although most were still too tight. Among them, I discovered a lovely fuchsia formal dress, clearly meant for a bridesmaid, and even though it was a size 11, it fit me perfectly without any struggle with the zipper. When the saleslady noticed my approving look in the mirror, she glanced at James and quietly remarked, "I think she likes it." I caught her eye and affirmed, "Definitely." I had a couple more dresses to try on, and as I entered the changing room and drew the curtain, I signaled for James to join me. He quietly went upstairs to see if he could find anything else, while I continued trying on dresses without much success. Midway through changing out of one dress, James opened the curtain slightly to hand me another, and my spontaneous reaction, much to my surprise, was, "Sweetie, please, I'm not wearing anything." Later, James shared that when he glanced back at the saleslady, she was smiling, an unexpected moment that became a highlight of the day. After struggling to squeeze into the dress James handed me, I decided the fuchsia bridesmaid's formal was the one for me, and I slipped back into it. Emerging from the changing room, I made my way to the store's mirrored area, knowing instinctively that this was my dress. The saleslady skillfully zipped me up and commented, "I knew you picked this dress the moment you looked at it." She was right. After another glance at myself in the mirror, I declared, "This is the dress I want." When the saleslady mentioned making adjustments to the dress, I enthusiastically agreed and said, "Great, let's also look at bridal gowns." Taking charge, which I appreciated, the saleslady asked, "Now my dear, do you have a specific style in mind?" I confidently replied, "Oh yes, I definitely do," and pulled out clipped pages from bridal magazines. She complimented my organization compared to other brides-to-be, and I explained that I wanted the perfect dress for the most special day of my life. After a brief look at the pictures, she said, "I'll be right back," and returned with 3 gowns. She hung them up in the stall next to mine and invited me to try on the first one, mentioning it might be a bit snug. As I entered the stall, she kindly asked, "By the way, dear, what's your name?" I was touched by her interest and gladly told her. I was thrilled as I slipped into the first gown, though I struggled a bit with the cuffs of the dress, managing to slip my wrists through. Exiting the changing room barefoot, I felt an exhilarating rush as I walked towards the podium in a wedding dress, the fabric draping beautifully against my body. Standing on the podium, I felt the saleslady begin buttoning up the dress, her expert hands making the fabric fit perfectly. Admiring the gown, I glanced over at James as planned and remarked, "This dress looks so lovely, I wish my mother and sister could see it." James asked about taking pictures, and soon he was capturing moments to cherish forever. After the first dress, the saleslady approached me, gently touching my arm and asking softly, "What is your budget, dear?" As we had discussed, I replied, "My parents are covering the gown expenses. Anything under $1,500 is fine." She nodded understandingly and assured me, "Great, I know just what to find for you." The next few minutes were a whirlwind of trying on dress after dress, and I was thoroughly enjoying every moment. I paused at one point to inquire if they had any gowns with an organza skirt in the style I was seeking. She quickly returned with a stunning dress, a couple of sizes larger than mine, assuring me it would give us a good idea despite the fit. Slipping into the dress felt wonderful, the organza train and full skirt were a dream to wear. It draped like a tent on my body, and I listened attentively as the saleslady flared out the skirt, making it cascade elegantly to the floor. Modeling this particular dress in front of the mirror was a joy, the all-organza train looked enchanting. Glancing over at James, I knew he could see the happiness in my eyes. The organza gown featured a remarkably low back, even lower than my bra, prompting the saleslady to suggest, "If you choose this dress, I have a solution for your bra." I thanked her, feeling delighted at being fully embraced as a bride and, more importantly, as a woman. Eventually, I found myself deciding on a dress just as if I were truly purchasing a wedding gown. The one I chose was $800, a dream to wear and to admire in the mirror. The final wedding gown I tried on resembled the one I had fallen in love with in the bridal magazine. Words can hardly do it justice, it was similar to my wedding dress, but with more sheer material around the chest and lace trim along the skirt edges. Standing on the podium, I declared that this was the dress I loved and wanted to commit to. The saleslady echoed her earlier assurance, recognizing from the look in my eyes that this was indeed the perfect choice from the start. Finally, I exclaimed, "Now that I've decided on the dress, may I try on some headpieces?" The saleslady responded eagerly, "What kind of headpiece would you like?" I proceeded to describe a headpiece that featured a long back, emphasizing my desire for a veil to enhance my look and add excitement for my groom-to-be. The saleslady explained that the veil would be considered separately after choosing the headpiece. She disappeared briefly and returned with a selection of headpieces. Standing there, the saleslady delicately placed the headpiece on my head, securing it with the comb into my hair. I patiently observed my reflection in the stunning wedding gown as she worked. Once the headpiece was in place, she fluffed it out at the back, handed me a mirror, and stood behind me to reveal my complete look. I couldn't help but be awestruck once again by how elegant the wedding ensemble appeared on me. As she lowered the second headpiece onto my head, the saleslady complimented, "What lovely, thick hair you have, my dear. You won't have any trouble keeping the headpiece in place on your wedding day." I was thrilled by her remarks, hoping she wouldn't tug too hard on my hair, but everything turned out well. Just before leaving the podium, two girls entered the shop and approached the front desk to inquire about trying on wedding dresses with the owner. They were only a few feet away from me, and one of them exclaimed, "Wow, how pretty." I silently mouthed back a thank you. After one last look at the dress and headpiece, I asked the saleslady to unbutton me. Returning to the stall, I slipped out of the dress and changed into my short black skirt, sweater, and heels. Leaving the stall, I went to the front desk and completed the necessary formalities, ensuring the saleslady recorded the dress and headpiece numbers in case I needed to return for my mother and sister to see. With everything sorted, I left the store with James, returning home where he assisted me with my purchases, the bridesmaid's dress and the velvet formal. James helped me into the velvet dress and proceeded to take numerous pictures as I posed around the basement in it. I felt absolutely wonderful in the dress, even slipping on the 4-inch black patent heels I planned to wear for our upcoming date. With the dress and heels on, I suggested to James that we practice dancing together, ensuring I was comfortable and could manage in the heels. Initially, the dancing was proper, but when a seductive slow song played on the radio, James dimmed the lights, and we began dancing intimately, slow and close. It was an experience feeling like a woman who was captivating her man with every close embrace. That wrapped up the day's events. James bid me goodbye with a kiss and a smile, both of us knowing the date ahead would be incredibly special. The time spent together on February 18th marked a significant turning point in our relationship, and the formal date in March promised to be quite different from our original plans.